I can't really describe what it's like. Not quite like a unicorn, but maybe like a newborn baby. When you have a month where you have zero misses. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another monthly wrap-up, this time for February of 2025. Quite the month. Had a ton of fun with everything that I read this month. And it's one of those rare months where, you don't feel like anything was really, like it would be harder to actually pick your worst book of the month, except for this one, because this month it's been a tough choice. It's still actually killing me right now. But we're just going to go ahead and get into it, guys. Let's talk about what I read in the month of February. I read 5 novels and started 2 others, but those are more for March, so we'll talk about them there. That's Third World Time Travel by Philip Fracassi, and the first Alex Verus book by Benedict Jacob. But we'll talk about those in March, as I am still working on those. But as for the 5 that I read this month, I read Empire of Dirt. That's the second book in the Echo Saga, or the middle book of the Relic trilogy, I guess it were. That's part of a read-along, and we're about to start. Some people have already started the third book. I'm finishing up what I'm going to do, and then I will jump in on that third book there. But Empire of Dirt, it definitely felt like a middle book of a trilogy, and I said that without knowing how it's going to land yet. Because it did that thing where it felt like it introduced so many new characters all at once. It was like, okay, you might be trying to do a little too much, too quick. It started to feel like this is a 5-book series kind of wrapped into 3. But again, it's one of those, I think, that after I finish book 3 and I look back on it, you'll kind of know how I feel about Empire of Dirt more. But again, it really good. I like the first book a lot more, but this was still really, really good. I like the world that Philip is setting up here. Black Mouth by Ronald Malfi. If you guys have been around at all the past month, you know that I like this book a lot, very much. I get recommended all the time, guys. Oh, it's like Stephen King, and then I read them, and they're not like Stephen King. This definitely felt like it could almost be a Stephen King ghostwriter. It was that good, and that's about the highest compliment that I can give for a horror author, I think, is that it really feels like some young Stephen King. Really, really enjoyed my time with Black Mouth. The Death of Dulgath. This is book 3 in Rhaenyra Chronicles, the Royce and Hadrian prequel series by Michael J. Sullivan. Didn't like it as much as the first 2. Like last month, I did say Rose and Thorn was my book of the month, and it was very much an easy choice for me, because I thought like it took everything that Crown Tower set up, made it better. This one, it's like I enjoy seeing Royce and Hadrian do anything, really. That's it. Again, the worst book in a Rhaenyra series is still going to be really, really good. And this was really, really good. I just didn't like it as much as the one before it. And I think that might have hurt it a little bit. But again, it's one of those, a lot of people told me it tied into the Legends of the First Empire, which I guess I didn't get that far because I didn't recognize the character that they were telling me about that does show up in both of those. But again, Royce and Hadrian book, you had me at hello. It wasn't really hard. Grave Empire by Richard Swan. I said what I liked about this. Probably my second favorite Richard Swan book up to this point. The 4 that he's written that I've read. The 4 that I've read. I didn't read his series before The Empire of the Wolf, which he does have a sci-fi series before that. He's got a new sci-fi series he's going to be working on after this. But as for this, what I liked about this is I felt like The Empire of the Wolf, it kind of started as one thing and then became something else, and that kind of took me out of it somewhat. This one, right off the bat, he's unapologetic about saying this is fantasy horror, and he really just goes for it. He creates a sense of dread, man. I haven't seen this side of Lovecraft. He's really good. Like I said, he actually made me kind of creeped out to go into this forest with the characters, because that forest seemed really scary, but I love all the mythical beasts and stuff that he's using there. I love the way he set up this sequel series. And I do think it's one of those where you could probably dive in, even if you haven't read Empire of the Wolf. You could probably jump into this and actually really enjoy what's going for it. But if you've liked that, Between Two Fires kind of fantasy horror style stuff, I think you'll like this series quite a bit. That's kind of what it made me think a lot of, without maybe the Angels and Demons yet. Then Mystic River, that was our ℏ𝕤𝕤𝕣𝕠𝕜 read. That was Brian's pick over at BellTube. Loved it. Thought it was phenomenal. Kind of had a lot of the things I liked about Black Mouth in it, and God, this is one of those that just had such high expectations coming in. And somehow it not only met them, it actually kind of exceeded them a little bit. I like this book a lot. And I think it's one of those where I'm feeling good about kind of stepping outside of my comfort zone once in a while and reading, a crime novel, a mystery novel, things like that. Not always just fantasy and horror and sci-fi. And it's quite fun to kind of tone it down a little bit. get kind of a smaller community, a smaller cast of characters. The world building's done because I know about Earth. That's it. It's made it a little easier, I think, on some things to really get into some of these and keep you from avoiding the dreaded B word, which is burnout, and you don't ever want that. But loved all these books, man. It was a really, really good reading month, and that makes this decision even harder. We're going to get into book of the month here. Now, I know a lot of people think they know if they watch the weekly updates. Usually, you know the winner of this. But they probably also know, well, he liked this book a lot, but I know he also liked that book a lot. So which one am I going to choose, guys? You know that it is coming down between Blackmouth and Mystic River. This is one of the hardest choices of all time. And I'm afraid, guys, I am going to have to take the chicken shit route here. Because for the first time ever, we have co-books of the month. Because I cannot pick, because these are two S-tier books. And the thing is, there's a lot of similarities. There's also a lot of differences. They both deal with three childhood friends where something really, really bad happens. And it deals with the person they become as adults and how they dealt with it. Some people dealt with what happened and they got stronger for it. Other people never dealt with it and their lives became a mess. And they never really were able to move on. So with these two, that's about the limit of their similarities, I think. Obviously, Ronald Malfi's a much more horror and supernatural horror. This one is more real life horror. I will say the reason that Mystic River, let's talk about each one first. With Mystic River, I think what really got me with this is the parent stuff. If you have kids, the first third of this book is going to absolutely destroy you. It's very, very tough to read. It was so tough to read. At one point, I put it down and finished the fantasy horror book because this was so horrific. Does that make sense? But this, absolutely incredible character work. I had heard how good Dennis Lehane was. This, I mean, it keeps you guessing all the way to the end. But man, I felt like I knew Jimmy, I knew Dave, I knew Sean inside and out. Too much so that when I watched the movie at the beginning, knowing what happens to those kids, I was already like heartbroken because I felt like I knew them because I read this first. Absolutely incredible book, superb character work. I think it does that thing where I figured out half of it. I figured out half because it sets it up to look like, well, it's a no-brainer who the killer is. But I kept saying it's just too on the nose for a book like this. And I think it was like half of it I figured out. And you kind of have to read it, you have to watch it to understand what I'm talking about. I kind of figured out half of it, but it was never something that was like easy. And I am very much an along for the ride type of reader. So it's one of those where I say it's a good thing, but it's also really, really genius what he does where you won't figure it out. And it doesn't matter if you figure it out. What happens at the end is still absolutely devastating. This book hasn't left my brain for the week that I've finished it now. I have thought about it every single day, and to me that is the mark of an absolutely great book. Same with Blackmouth. I read it at the beginning of the month. With this, I love that Stephen King format. This is something that happened when we were all childhood friends. Something really, really bad happened. Some kind of maybe supernatural figure kind of comes into our lives, and things go to shit. And then we come back together as adults after a tragedy brings us all back together, and we got to kind of face those demons and go and stare down everything that ruined our lives as kids. And you know, the only thing that would have made this more like a Stephen King book was if the protagonist had been a writer. That was the only thing. It got a character that's suffering from alcohol withdrawal, going back and falling off the wagon over and over again, and dealing with that really traumatic event as a kid. And with this, I just related to these kids so much because I feel like what Stephen King's always able to do with the kids is like if you couldn't relate to one of those kids, you knew one of those kids. And for me, it also kind of got me some parent stuff because there is a special needs kid in here, and I have a special needs kid, and seeing him as an adult, and it just really endeared that character to me a lot. This book, this is the first time I've read a horror book in ages where I was really, really torn to say goodbye. Because I love those characters so much. His character work in here is so dang good. And I felt like it was like Losers Club almost, where I felt like I was there with those characters battling this great evil. It's just so damn good, man. That's why I know it's a chicken shit thing to say, oh, it's like that's someone saying like, oh, I got co-best men or something. No, I would never do this unless it's just, these are both going to be on my top 10 at the end of the year. I mean, it's undoubtable, unless I just have like the greatest reading year of all time. Because these are two all-timers, and it has me excited to read more Dennis Lehane. But for this, guys, I have been looking for that horror author that gets me excited like this for a long time. This modern horror author that really gets me thinking I'm going to love, because I liked Come With Me, and I thought he was right there on the edge of greatness. It wasn't really quite what I was looking for. This was everything I've been looking for in horror. And it's got me excited because I feel like this is right when I discovered Blake Crouch. For so many years, people told me, oh, well, you know, this author's a lot like Michael Crichton. And I'd read him like, they are not like Michael Crichton. I read Blake Crouch, and right away I knew, holy shit, yes, this is the way that Dr. Crichton made me feel. This gave me those young Stephen King vibes. And if his books are continue to be like this, I mean, it's hard for me not just to say, screw my schedule, screw my plans. I'm just going to read his entire bibliography, which I think I'm going to do, but not like that. But I'm going to be reading a lot more Ronald Malfoy, like almost like a book a month here in the future, because I'm very, very excited about this. And that's why I can't pick between these two, because both these books have dominated my thoughts this month. And for me, there's a lot of books where I'm like, they're good, and you don't even think about them a day later. If it's been a month and a week and you're still thinking about these two books, they did something right. And that's why I have first time ever, guys, book of the month. Pick them both up. If you like a little bit of horror, I say go with this one. Real life horror, obviously. And if you want some supernatural horror, the coming of age stuff that I love so much, this is going to be exact, because this has a little bit more coming of age than this one does. Because this one, it's kids, and then it kind of pops to them as adults. This one, you kind of see both sides of it in that It fashion where it's going back and forth. So yeah, highest recommends for both these guys, and that's why first time ever, co-books of the month. Mystic River, Dennis Lehane, Blackmouth, Ronald Malfoy. Check them out. So how about some of my most popular content for the month? I did one live stream. I did 4 short form videos, because I did create this thing called In Case You Missed It. And in case you missed what that is, a lot of people want to know my thoughts on one book and they don't watch the weekly updates. And I don't review every book anymore, since book reviews kind of fell out of favor on this platform. So I decided I'd just take some clips of the ones that I talk about in my weekly updates and just put those out there for someone's looking, hey, they want to know my thoughts on, Blackmouth. They can just look up Mike's Book Reviews Blackmouth and find that, instead of having to find this particular weekly update that I was talking about it on. So that's something I kind of did there. And that's why I have 4 of those. And then I have 12 standard videos, as is the regular routine here on the channel, the 3 videos a week. And that's it, man. 4 weeks this month, and 3 videos a week, as well as that live stream, which was just kind of a spur of the moment thing. Let's talk about the most popular vids here. Obviously, 25,000 views as of this recording, because I think it was quite a hot button issue. That, of course, is me saying that the Amazon Kindle has chased me off to the point to where I'm saying I'm going to make the switch to Kobo. I still haven't opened it, but it's just because there's a lot to take from here to here and get it there. But that video really was just me talking about why Amazon, it just feels like they've gotten to the point where they hate their users enough that they don't want us anymore. And I said it wasn't necessarily that Kobo did anything right. I said they didn't do anything. And again, watch that video if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about. Right now, unless you've been living under a rock, you know. In this community, you probably know why everyone's really, really upset with Kindle right now. But Ask Me Anything live stream that had 16,000 views. It's one of those where there was a lot of things going around this past month, and I was just like, you know what, it might be a good day for some optimism, some good vibes out there. And that's just kind of what I wanted to do, and just talk with you guys, as that's always a lot of fun. I don't do live streams as much as I should, probably. I know that a lot of, like, YouTube always tells us, a channel your size, you should be doing a live stream every week. I'm like, well, I'm never going to do one every week, and I doubt I'll ever do one every month. But, I think once a quarter seems pretty fair. I think that seems like a good idea. And I love talking to you guys. Let you ask me questions direct, even if a lot of it is the same questions I always get. Where should I start with Stephen King? Things like that. That's part of the charm of a live stream, and I do enjoy making them. And I'm glad that you guys did join me on that one. My book haul for January, 13,000 views. That's a little higher than usual for a book haul. And I guess I have Broken Binding to thank for that, because I put their beautiful painted edges on the thumbnails. Everybody's like, well, I got to check these books out, because Broken Binding just does amazing work. But I got all kinds of amazing things from you guys, from authors, from publishers. It was an amazing month. And I love to say thank you and share those with you guys and let you see everything, so you know if it's worth your hard-earned money. And I think that most of them probably are. Sun Eater 7, that's Shadows Upon Time, did the cover reveal for Christopher Rocchio, and he joined me and talked about it. And that was a lot of fun for me, because I don't really do cover reveals very much. But someone like Christopher, who I built a good relationship with, and I would consider us real life friends at this point. I like to help him out. Not that he needs any help from me anymore. He's kind of like taking over BookTube. He's like the king of BookTube now, and I'm so happy for him because I said years ago when I first started talking about that series that Christopher Rocchio deserved to be a household name within the sci-fi community, and I think he is, and he's moved over into the fantasy community now as well. But the cover looks awesome, and I'm sure the book's going to be amazing too. And anytime I get a chance to talk to Christopher, I'm going to do that because he's very, very easy to talk to. He's just all around a great guy, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun doing that. What I love and hate about audiobooks, that had 10,000 views as of this recording. That was really just, I don't listen to audiobooks, but I get asked about them so much. That's why I kind of talk about why I think they're a good thing, and why I may not like it very much, but that's why I think that they're they're much more of a good thing than a bad thing for this community, because it gets a lot of people who don't read at all. They're consuming these stories now. So I think that's it. And at the end, it just kind of hinges on, I'm jealous. I wish that I could read them, because I always say I'll never be able to read everything back here before I die. And, I feel like I'd have a better shot if I could maybe double my output by, just listen to some while I do chores and commutes and things like that. That would be really, really cool. But the listening ADD, it just doesn't care. I got a sixth one here because it has almost the identical amount of views as the audiobook one. That was romance books that I may actually try. It has 10,000 views as well. That was one where it was a Valentine's Day. I always try to do a Valentine's themed video. And it was one of those, mostly the point of that was me saying, just because a series has a female lead does not mean it's romance, guys. And it's the big comparison I made was Mercy Thompson. Everyone tells me, oh, it's a romantasy book. And it's like, from what I understand, it is exactly like Dresden Files, except it has a female lead. And it's like, well, it has romance in it. Dresden Files has romance in it. Is it not romantasy just because it has a male lead? So, I may read it and be like, oh, no, you're right. This is romantasy. But the point of the matter is, I think a lot of times, especially as guys, we will tend to say, oh, it's got a teenage female protagonist. It's got to be romantasy. And I don't think that's always the case. And I want to make sure that I lead by example and say, I'm not going to be ignorant and say that without reading anything about it, without knowing. I'm not above anything that you guys want to read. You want to read romantasy, man, that's awesome. As long as you're reading, I am happy. I don't know if I'm going to do it. If you watch that video, you'll know that the secret to getting me to read romantasy lies in the hands of my wife. So we'll see. Some March goals here before I go. I think really the only goals is just going to kind of finish up this read along strong. I'm glad we've had so much participation in this read along with us on the Philip State Control series. That's been a lot of fun. It was unexpected. It was just there were so many people picking up book one when I did. I said, hey, let's just go ahead and make it a read along, and everybody seemed to be on board. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been great because I used to do that a lot more. And I just felt bad after I bailed on my own read-along in Book 2 of Codex Alera. I just kind of stopped doing them, and hopefully this will get me back to being more encouraged to do those going forward. Continue mixing in some new things. I talked earlier about, mixing in new genres, I think, has been something I've wanted to do. I just talked about romance. That isn't exactly my thing. But some of these crime books and mystery books, things like that, being able to that's what ℙ𝕦𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤 has really helped me with. Some books that I probably wouldn't usually have on my TBR, that's been a great opportunity to kind of pick some of those up and read some of those. And it's been a lot of fun. So I want to continue to do that because I feel like that is what helps you avoid burnout. It's just stepping outside of that usual comfort genre sometimes. I think that can help you quite a bit. Keep tracking new releases and tackling those on time. I'm doing a couple. I'm doing the new Philip Fracassi. I'm doing the new Stephen Graham Jones this month. So that's something I want to kind of keep doing. Make sure I'm tackling some of these books while they're new, and see if that helps with the old, hey, book reviews don't really get very much traffic issue there. And then just try to get back on some collaborations. I know I talked about it last month too. I talked about why Talk About Nothing is kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit because in the end, I don't like rejection either. And you get turned down a couple times. You're like, well, maybe just Talk About Nothing isn't as fun as I thought it was. But I think I got some new people I want to kind of, it feels like all the same booktubers are talking to all the same people. I want to kind of try to grow that network a little bit. Get some new people, maybe some people outside of the fantasy genre that can come on the channel and just talk about, content creation and what they're reading and things like that. That's kind of my hope here going forward with some collaborations. But I don't have any currently on deck, but I'm not opposed to them either. So guys, what was the month of February like for you? What was your book of the month? I'd love to hear it. Have you read Black Mouth? Have you read Mystic River? If not, do so immediately. That is your assignment. I hope so. Both of those, TBR breaker. I don't care what genres you're into. I think you should pick both those up and read them immediately because, yeah, like I said, now you guys got to wonder what the other 8 books I'm going to have in my top 10 at the end of the year, because those 2 will definitely be in there unless something absolutely just mad happens and I just have the greatest reading year of all time. I guess we can all hope for that, right? So drop in the comments, guys, and let me know what you're thinking, and I will talk to you there.